All right, next up here is a movie we're both going to talk about in full. This one is called Bumblebee. Here's a clip from the movie.
People of Earth, we are Decepticon peacekeepers patrolling the galaxy.
What are you doing? This is humiliating.
We believe a dangerous criminal from our world is hiding somewhere on yours. There's a war raging on our planet. If B-127 isn't found, that war may find its way here.
So you can sort of hear the plot there, where the villains are describing their mission to a group of Earthling government agents headed up by John Cena's character, Jack Burns. Very, very cool name. So Bumblebee was directed by Travis Knight. This is his first live-action feature-length film. He also directed Kubo and the Two Strings, which is from Laika, which he actually helped co-found. Laika is responsible for some of my favorite animated films in the last decade, including Kubo and the Two Strings, of course, Coraline, Paranorman, and a few more. But the film stars Haley Steinfeld and John Cena, and it's an interesting one. It kind of takes place in the 80s, and it's a new Transformers film. Will Ashton, what did you even think going into this one? How did you prepare yourself for Bumblebee and all of its revelations?
Well, I went in with certainly higher expectations than I normally do for Transformers films, though this is the first Transformers film I ever saw in theaters. So given the reviews, I felt it had to be something.
So you didn't see the first Transformers in theaters?
No, I didn't. I've only seen one Michael Bay movie in theaters, and thankfully I didn't pay for it. So,
so it was Pain and Gain.
No, it was the other one, 13 Strong, I think it was called.
Well, what a weird way to round out Bay's filmography. I'm curious about this now. So I remember last year
12 Strong. That's
so no,
Sorry.
it was 13 Strong, wasn't it? Or it was 13 hours. The
13
Secret
hours.
Lives
12 Strong
yes.
was the movie from this year with what's his face? Chris Hemsworth.
And 13 Hours was something else, which I don't think that was Michael Bay.
The Benghazi movie.
Yeah.
With John Krasinski, yeah.
Well, then also, last year there was Transformers: The Last Night. I remember Maverick Hines and I talked about that, and you didn't even see it. So I
had a prior engagement, and I had never been happier to not be involved with an episode of Cinemaholics.
All right, fair enough.
But I did see it. I thought it was a flaming piece of crap. But I don't actually think I didn't give it an F like you guys did. So that's, I guess, one way I differ from it, but it was not far from an F. So I had better expectations for this movie, I guess, considering that last I checked, it has like a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
At one point it had 98, and I haven't checked it since, but I can really quick. It's no, you're right, 94.
Yeah, so it's certainly certified fresh, which is something that has not even remotely happened to the Michael Bay Transformers movies. So I was like, okay, this might be something. You know, Haley Steinfeld. I like Haley Steinfeld as an actress. I also saw that it was directed by Travis Knight, who made one of my favorite movies of 2016. I believe it was in my top 5, Kubo and the Two Strings. So I was like, okay, this could be something. This could be fun. And I don't know. I want to know what everyone was drinking in their Kool-Aid, because I feel like I'm on the minority here as far as the opinion is concerned, because I was a little bummed out by the end of it.
In what way?
I just found it kind of formulaic in a way that wasn't as engaging nearly as I thought it was going to be. It is certainly the best Transformers movie. I'll give it that. I mean, it's the best directed of them. I think it's certainly the most simplistic and focused of all the Transformers movies. So it has a coherency and a sense of focus that has not been found in the other Transformers films, at least not the sequels. But as a film, I feel like it's interesting that we're talking about this movie the same week we're talking about Aquaman, because like both those movies seem to be kind of working against their scripts. Their scripts feel like kind of studio mandated fodder where they just kind of have to work around it. And I think James Wan did that through creative means. In this movie, I think Travis Knight directed the film fairly well, but I just feel like the script is so hindered buy the cliches and formulaic tropes that it is has ingrained in its plot, that I don't think it ever quite forms its own identity. It feels a little bit like Short Circuit, Iron Giant, E.T., a bunch of other films before it, to the point where I just feel like I've seen this before and I've seen it better. So that's
Right. I'm right there with you, Will, and it's so fascinating because for once both you and I are kind of on the outside
yeah, this
looking
is weird.
in.
I don't like this, but it's
It
interesting.
is weird. I walked out of this really bummed out as well because, the trailers had me sold for what I got. I'll give it that. A character-driven Transformers film and simple story. That's what I wanted. A strong lead actress who sort of builds a bond and has a reason to care about this Transformer. That's what we got. An interesting kind of not black and white villain with John Cena. Yeah, great. That's what I wanted. But it's just the way that they do it. There's nothing new to it. So it really is one of those things. It's like, okay, well, you haven't seen Iron Giant before. You haven't seen E.T. If you haven't seen the dozens of films that have done this story before, where you know what's going to happen before it happens, you know every beat, and it would be one thing if the film had all of those familiar plot mechanics surrounded by really interesting scenes. But there were so many scenes that kind of were limp and kind of left you hanging. There's a scene where she has to catch up to her mom because her mom is driving the Volkswagen and it's like half transforming, and she's somehow, there are a lot of leaps in logic with this movie that don't really make sense. Somehow on a bike she manages to catch up to her mom, bike next to her, and stop the car, and that's the end of the scene. Like, there's nothing to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, well, where's the rest of the scene? Like, there's nothing that's sort of concluding this scene or giving us some kind of like really funny beat. I didn't really find myself laughing very much in this movie. When I did, it was great, and there are enjoyable moments in here. But yeah, I just didn't. I didn't find this film very satisfying. I think in a lot of ways, other people certainly are. And in my review of the film, I kind of mentioned, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's the best of the Transformers films, but how low is our bar? That's how we're kind of measuring this.
Yeah, are we grading on a curve here? Like, what's going on?
Right. I also, this is a nitpick, so I'm not, I just have to bring it up. So the film partly takes place in San Francisco. She lives in like a fictional coastal town. And okay, so I live over here, and I could not help but notice that I was a little annoyed by some of the weird. She's basically able to bike from like North San Francisco, like Muir Woods, I guess is what they're trying to say is where she is, like the Redwoods. She somehow bikes all the way down the peninsula to get to Santa Cruz, which is where she works, because that's like, I thought that was kind of cool. They actually filmed Santa Cruz and they show her. There were little moments where I could be like, ooh, that's like a little bit of movie magic. She's biking down the pier and she's not headed toward anything. But then it cuts to like a mechanic's shop, and I was like, movie magic. I like it. Because it's a nice way to capture the pier in the distance and everything. So if you wanted to get an idea of like where I live and what this area is like Silicon Valley and the South Bay and Santa Cruz and all that stuff, this film shoots that stuff pretty well, and it's not egregious about the Golden Gate Bridge. So those are my most positive / slight nitpicks, because some of the details weren't quite there in terms of how she was able to get around. But
I mean,
the movie.
It should be noted that it's like she doesn't have a traditional bike. It's like somewhere between like a bike and a motorcycle, right?
Right.
Like it's like So I excused it a little bit as far as the scene you're talking about with her mom. Something like stood out to me was like there's like the scene where like she's like training Bumblebee on the beach in the middle of the day, and there's like nobody there. And it's like,
right,
how is nobody on the beach in the middle of the day and not seeing all this? Like even from like the boardwalk, like. Who is not seeing this? Like, well, that's not anywhere near the boardwalk. That's supposed to be Rodeo Lake, I think it's called, which is north of San Francisco, and it's a place where there are literally houses overlooking the beach. Yeah,
like right
that's
there.
what I mean. Like somebody would see this. Like it's not. This is not a conspicuous whatever. Yeah, it's not a hidden place at all.
Inconspicuous. Yeah.
Yes, there you go. You know how to speak.
I don't know. those things, those aren't things that make this terrible or anything. It's just there are so many leaps in logic. There were so many things taking me out constantly where I was thinking to myself, wait, what? They're creating the internet right now? Like, wait, they're going to let
I actually thought that was kind of fun.
these invader robots? It made no sense, Will Ashton.
No, I know.
The government
it
would
made
let
zero
these...
sense.
So
But
the
I was
whole...
like, okay, whatever, I'll allow this.
The whole plot of the Decepticons showing up and the humans are so concerned about Bumblebee, and Bumblebee is such a huge threat, and they're willing to work so quickly with these other robots that look way more evil, I think. I don't know. It was just such a stupid decision. And like, I will give the film credit because John Cena was the one character who's like, what? Why are we letting this happen? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And that part, fine. That worked.
Cena, he's not made to be the comedic character, but he has like all the funny jokes. Like the actual jokes
really
are
does.
funny.
Which is actually is kind of a shame because Pamela Adlon is also in this.
Yeah, the
And
great Pamela Adlon. She's given nothing.
Nothing. She is such a, she's one of TV's most understated secret weapons.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Californication, she makes that show.
Well,
So
King of the Hill. I mean, yeah, and Better Things, her own show.
she
which
has
is
her
very
own
good.
show, which I've heard is good. I've never actually
It's
seen
very-
Better Things.
I still need to see the second season, but the first season is definitely good.
Regardless, I don't know. When this film works, it does work. And I get why people are liking it and they're enjoying it. It's just, it's so cliche. There are too many cliches. There are too many leaps in logic that really don't follow any sort of coherence. And there were little things in the script where I did think it was a bit of a rough draft because you have this subplot with like this neighbor kid who's kind of in love with her, and they really don't. His name is Memo for some weird reason.
I actually kind of like that his name was Memo.
He's played by Georgie Lindenberg. He was I think he was in Brigsby Bear, wasn't he?
Was he? Was he the kid?
I think he was.
Oh wow, I knew he looked familiar, but that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm looking it up now. He was in Love, Simon. He was also in Spider-Man: Homecoming, but I'm not seeing. Oh wait, no, yeah, he played Spencer in Brigsby Bear.
Yeah, good old Spencer.
Yeah. One of my favorite actors in that film.
I think he's a good actor. Yeah, I think his character is very, very thin, though. Like, literally, his only thing for like 45 minutes of this film is like talking to himself about asking a girl out and then trying to ask a girl out unsuccessfully for like 45 minutes. It's like the same thing over and over again. It's like, geez, Louise, can we just get on with this or move away? Like, do something else.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. The film is trying to succeed off of this connection between Charlie and Bumblebee. She has like a pretty tragic backstory and all of this stuff. And there was something, I guess there was just something missing there for me that really made me invest in these two characters and what the film was trying to say ultimately, because all I was really getting from it was, okay, a way that you can cope through grief is through new friends. And I don't know, I guess I guess it's weird to say that I want a little bit more from a Transformers movie, but I kind of do at the same time because, like, again, you said it best when other movies have done this and they've done it better. Iron Giant does this perfectly. So, like, if you're going to do Iron Giant, you need more. If you're going to invoke those connections and those relationships, you know, maybe this is just one of those films that's for a newer generation and they haven't seen Iron Giant or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I still got more Short Circuit than Iron Giant, but I think Iron Giant was what they were trying to do more than Short Circuit.
Well, in terms of like the grandness of it, I think.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, from like an alien anthropomorphic robot for sure, but
and the fact that he like kind of loses control of himself at one point, and you're like, oh, he's scary too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, in that sense. You mean like when the eyes turn red and stuff? Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely. I think Travis Knight has said on numerous occasions, like, I'm trying to make the Iron Giant. So yeah.
Well, fine. It works in some of those levels, and I guess we didn't really mention it, but one of the reasons it is the better Transformers movie is because at least the action is coherent. You can actually Yeah, you can actually tell that there's like in Aquaman, there's like a visual tone that's established and it's followed through. And when these Autobots are fighting Decepticons and when these robots are kind of in the thick of it, you understand what's going on. I think that Bumblebee is a little overpowered, honestly. I think it's part of the problem with the script that he's the only one. I always felt like he was way stronger than the people he was fighting. And so there's some character development in that way of like that I didn't really understand. Is like he seems like a younger soldier, so why is he able to like? It happens pretty early on. Like he's so able to easily defeat the villains, and I wanted a little bit more
Yeah,
explanation of like, okay, is it because he's more creative? Is it what's his deal? Like how is he so good at this?
yeah, I had the same opinion. I guess it's just that he's very adept in his world, but like because he's going to a completely different world, that he's not quite as adept at anything. But
Hmm.
that's pretty loose comparison, or a pretty loose explanation. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of it, but when I saw him fighting, I thought it was cool, and I thought it was what an action movie should have and do. And yeah, I guess I just didn't quite love the writing here. The film, I think, was partly written by Christina Hodson. I think she did the
yeah,
whole screenplay, and I like
she did Edge of 17, right? Which is a good film.
it is. She also did Shut In, the 2016 film.
Oh, I didn't see that, but
Yeah, great writer, but I guess there was just like a disconnect with taking this material, which is again very character based. It's a more serious look at the Transformers that is welcome. But I guess we just need a little bit more of a coherence between director and writer to really bring about something that feels like its own thing. And I think in some ways it does. Like I think the music is good. Dario Marianelli does the music, the cinematography. Like we said, it's got an interesting look. I think as Enrique Chidayek did the cinematography, and it's so 80s, and I think it's a little slavish to the 80s in some ways.
oh,
Is that
for
too far to
sure.
go?
Its devotion to the 80s is very shameless and not at all subtle, and I found it pretty grating, like in a way that if you're gonna do like the 80s nostalgia thing, like don't just say like 80s stuff, like actually incorporate into plot. Just don't be like, hey guys, I'm gonna watch Alf on my beta TV. Hey, let's
Mm.
have fun here in the 80s. It's like just so
Time to play Pong.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Ugh.
yeah, and I thought some of the music choices were sort of working themselves into the plot, but I don't know. I don't think it didn't do that much to wow me, I guess. And if you're going for this big of a story and if you're going for this specific and aesthetic, you got to do a little bit more. And I understand the bar was so low, and we should be grateful, Will Ashton. I feel a little bad because we're not loving this new Transformers film, like how original, but yeah, I don't know. It wasn't quite there for me, but I think people should take our opinions with a grain of salt because we're total outliers. I think that people really like this film. Some people are saying it's their favorite of the year, and
Really?
I
Wow.
don't get it. But hey,
Wow.
I'm glad people are digging it because that means that maybe the next one can be even better. So, what were your final thoughts, and how would you grade Bumblebee?
Yeah, I don't. I think I'm a slightly more positive than you are, but that's not really saying too much. For me, it's like a close but no cigar blockbuster. I think there is stuff in here. We talked more about the negatives just because I think we're the outliners on this. Like there is good stuff in here. I think Haley Steinfeld has okay chemistry with Bumblebee. I think there's a couple like good bits of dialogue here and there, but as it stands, it's certainly a step up for the Transformers series. I think it's the first Transformers movie since the first film where it felt like they actually took from executive producer Steven Spielberg's playbook. Like they actually followed his guidance. And normally I'd find that kind of tedious and unoriginal, but I think that actually added to its sense of coherency that was very much not found in the last four Transformers movies. So I guess last five actually, right? Or how many were those did they end up being?
Let's
Five
see. Yeah,
altogether? So
yeah, I
last
think it
four,
was
yeah.
five. Yeah, 5 or 6.
Yes. Yeah, so last four, I mean. So I just wish it wasn't so like familiar with its beats. It didn't have so many tropes to it that feel like we've seen this a million times before. And I feel bad because I'm really excited for Travis Knight as a filmmaker. I wanted to champion his live action debut, and I will still check out every single Leica movie. I will continue to support him in his endeavors, but unfortunately, I wasn't quite endeared by this film as many people were, and I hope more people like it. I'm glad people like it, but for me, it was a C plus.
Okay, yeah, I'm a C on this one. I think it's pretty average, and I agree. It's a step in the right direction. There's good stuff in here, but it's like surrounded by some just really weak plot devices and so many gaps in logic that really threw me for a loop, and I just wasn't able to get into it. But yeah, I mean, because we are such outliers, again, 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, I do want to bring up a couple of positive reviews. Caillou Pettis of Starburst said the film is brimming with fun and charming scenes, a compelling story, and a great hero in Haley Steinfeld. Bumblebee is a joyride of a film, way more than meets the eye. Liz Shannon Miller from IndieWire gave the film a B plus and wrote there are
B plus, yeah.
B plus, yeah. There are many scenes where giant robots fight each other, and in those scenes, you can actually see what's happening. The Autobots and Decepticons toss each other around with slick, judo-like moves and blast each other with abandon, and the cinematography and editing hold still long enough to let you enjoy the moment. So yeah, so
I wish
some praise.
I wish I could give it a B too, just for the hell of it, but I can't. I have to be true to my opinions of the film.
Yeah. The only opinion that I can find that was similar to yours was Jesse Hasinger's from the AV Club. Also gave it a C plus, called it a careless stretch of blockbusting. So very similar to some of yours and my thoughts. So that's Bumblebee.
I wouldn't call it careless, but I just think there is care in here.
I'd call it fast and loose.
Sure. I just wish they spent a little more time making the script stand out in literally any way at all.
All right, well, that is Bumblebee. It's now playing in theaters along with Aquaman and Mary Poppins Returns. It's quite a week at the box office. I think that you are not low on choices because all three of those films are fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Two of them are certified fresh. Mary Poppins Returns is 77% at the moment. Bumblebee is 94%, as we said, and Aquaman's at 63%, which, you know,
really, that's low. Oh.
It is a little low, yeah. It's basically at the end, but it's got an 87% audience rating. You know, grain of salt as always, but you know, you definitely get the sense that that's one where I think fans are more than satisfied, even if the reviews are technically pretty negative. So
yeah, I guess I just hadn't been paying attention to the Aquaman score because it was a lot higher last I checked.
It was, yeah. I think the first rollout, it was on more positive tides. But
there you go.
Now
you made puns for Transformers and Aquaman. That one, I like it.
There you go. I think that's a Pirates of the Caribbean title.
Sure.